This is the story of Pip. And many of you have been asking for this story. So grab your tea, grab your snacks, get comfy, because this is a long story, but it's a beautiful one. And it's probably one of very, very few sort of like manifestation miracles that have occurred in my life. Okay. So it starts in 2019 when I started to feel like this desire to get a cat. I was living with my boyfriend at the time. I saw a post on Facebook, which I'm no longer on, by the way, so don't even try to look, because I'm not there. We were looking on, I saw a friend post or repost this, one of his friends that had been trying to find places for these kittens that were born to a mama cat on their property. And so, and that fell through. So anyway, the desire never really left to have a cat or a dog. I grew up with a cat when I was little, very little. I loved the movie Annie. I was like obsessed with it. I had a crush on her too, and imagined meeting her in real life. And I knew all the songs, and I was just, and I wanted a dog because of that movie. But my parents instead, we were a very big family living in a side-by-side 2-family house, which we rented. And that's where I was born and raised. And so we got a cat because there was an old man down the street who had a lot of cats. And that's how we got Pusha. Poosha. Now, at the beginning, we called him Sandy, but then we changed his name to Pusha. Pusha was an indoor-outdoor and lived for the next 15, 16 years. So, and he'd gotten into a lot of fights. He was very, very territorial. But he had a good life, and we loved him very much. When I was 14, my older sisters moved out of the house, and I was sort of alone all the time because both my parents worked, and I was sort of alone. I was a freshman in high school, and so my mom went to a local pound with one of our neighbors, and they saw this little puppy that had been brought in, and my mom took one look at that dog and said, "Oh my goodness," because he did that thing where he looked like Tramp from Lady and the Tramp, okay, with Yorkie coloring, or with a typical German Shepherd type of coloring. And he did the thing where you say something to him, and then he turns his head to the side, so cute, trying to understand. And my mom didn't say anything to me about it, but she brought me in there with her one day, and she was like, I just want to look around. And I immediately felt drawn to this dog. Hello, Grandpa. It's 11:16. It's always my grandpa with me when it's 11:16, especially when I'm talking about my childhood, which included him because he lived with us. So imagine that, right? Of course, they were going to get a cat that they didn't really have to take care of because he could be outdoor, because there were already 6, sometimes 7 of us in the house. So yeah, so I felt drawn to that dog. And my mom said, "That's the one, huh?" And I said, I looked at her and I was like kind of puzzled. And she was like, "I saw this dog and I immediately fell in love with him. He reminds me of a dog that I had when I was little." And so we just got into this conversation about it. But, we left and, whatever. And then one day, my mom decides to pick me up from the bus stop. She's there waiting in the car. And I get in and she has the dog. So $17.50 from the pound. And he was ours. He was probably around, they gauged he was probably around 9 months old at the time. I had hamsters, Russian dwarf hamsters, teddy bear hamsters. We had fish at one point. I mean, we were an animal loving family, accepting of that. So I love animals generally. Okay. I didn't really discriminate. So if somebody asks me if I'm a dog or a cat person, I go, I'm an animal person. I love them all. And like I'll be outside in the spring just like loving up on like watching the bumblebees on the flowers, just loving it. They can come close to me, My mom always told me when I was little, the bumblebees don't sting you. They do sting, but they'll get away from you. They don't want to have to sting you. So they're more docile. So 2019, wanted a cat or a dog. And I started thinking about it thoroughly, and I knew I probably couldn't physically care for a dog, and that a cat would be a lot easier. So I was going over these things in my head, like what would be easier. But I had housing and financial issues at the time, and my parents as well. And we had a little bit of a situation with not having enough space in our home. That's another story entirely. I would occasionally talk to them about it, like I'd just be like, Megan wants a puppy this Christmas, send one along. And I would just really want I was playing around with it, but I wasn't serious. And it was my hope that it was my hope that it would eventually happen. Like I had faith that something might happen, but I knew that the timing wasn't right for any of these things in our lives at the time. And that was 2019. So in 2020, right, pandemic hits, I started watching a lot of TikToks and YouTube shorts, compilations of like full videos of about pets, and all animals, like birds and just anything in nature. I was absorbing all of it. Like I was even, watching Planet Earth and just getting, I was really hyped on that. So I don't know. It was my escape into a happy place, right? During a time that was not only difficult for the world, but was difficult for me as I had just gotten out of a very abusive relationship. And so, I found myself drawn to channels like What About Bunny, the talking dog, I Is Cat, right? That's Minnie. She's the best. And Billy Speaks, who, rest in peace, Billy died last year. And then Spoonful of Ragdolls, Korean family that has like 11 ragdoll cats, and it's the best. And they all have their own personalities. And so I kind of it's strange to me now looking back at this and going, I know what I wanted from watching these channels, but I didn't know it then. And then that's how, like, it's so funny that Pip, like, is reminiscent of my favorites, you know? Like, I have a bias when it comes to Spoonful of Ragdolls. I love Gemma and I love Manon. So I loved watching people interact with their animals, with their pets, but also in nature, like people interacting with their neighborhood squirrels and the birds and deer, feeding the deer. Like, there's a guy that just feeds all the deer. And then there's that Canadian guy that feeds all the raccoons. Oh, I love these channels. I live. And I just branched out and began to, like, put nuts out for our squirrels and talking about getting a bird feeder so that the birds had, you know, had some feed during difficult times. And I just, you know, I started to notice things. Like, we had this hanging plant that my mom never took down. We have these, like, wrought iron poles that come out from the structure on our porch. And my mom is heavily into gardening and planting, and she's an electric green thumb. This woman loves to watch things grow. So she just, like, had it there, but there was nothing growing in it except for, like, the old twigs of what, you know, the remnants of what the plant used to be. And we found that there were wrens that built a nest in the pot and in like the dirt there. And then all of a sudden, we came out one day and we heard all their little chirps of the babies that hatched. It was like beep, 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 beep. It was so great. And we saw the eggs in there. We were just peeking over. We could see everything. We saw, you know, and then we were there to see them, the babies. And I just, at that point, I began to start, like, daydreaming in my waking life and imagining having a cat that would be mine. And it crept into my subconscious and would show up, like, in my dreams. I remember I had a dream about a black cat that had, like, a lot of those, like, amber sort of brown hairs mixed in. And it was a beautiful dream. And I woke up and I was like, I think I just dreamt about a cat that I'm going to have. It felt like that. It really did. And I talked about it. And all the while I was still interacting with nature and being so grateful for what I had already around me. And being so consumed by that and happy, and it lifted my spirits. So I wasn't doing it with any other intention but that I derived happiness from it. Really, truly. It was filling me with a great sense of love and purpose and awe of nature and what I have here where I am. We even have wall lizards now. One year, I think it was in 2021, we noticed that there were lizards coming out of nowhere. I looked them up, and they are, in fact, Italian wall lizards. And they come out every spring and summer, and there's tons of them now. And they're great. They eat all the bugs. So we were very happy to have the lizards. Pippi's chased the lizards before. She knows where they are, and she wants to go hunting for them. She caught one, my mother told me. My mom takes Pippi out, and she told me that Pippi caught a lizard and ate it. So I was concerned about that because I don't know what kind of diseases. I'm like, we can't afford a fucking vet bill. Internally, I didn't yell at her. But, when we first got Pippi, she had some kind of dehydration issue or a bacterial infection of some kind. So I did have to take her to the vet to get antibiotics and to get a rehydration thing done for her. So I was like, oh no, she ate a lizard. Anyway, so 21, 22, right? 2021 to 2022, I could feel how I was manifesting. I didn't know all the time. I didn't really realize it, but I became happier with what I had, right? I be it the videos that I was watching, and the people with their pets, which I started to feel like were my own pets. I'd watch Billy Speaks. I'd be like, that's my girl. There we go. Billy's my girl, And I talk to the screen like I'm watching a spoonful of ragdolls and I'm pronouncing the names of the cats the way that they pronounce the names of their cats. Like Manon is Manua. And Giselle is Isela. And Google is Gugari. So I say them. I loved that chat. I have notifications turned on. Okay, I'm obsessed with Spoonful of Ragdolls. Check them out. Oh, the best. And I was just so happy in the present, and I found joy in all of my present moments, all the while still imagining that I had my own cat. So this is through 21, 22, and then we get to May 9th of 2022, the day after Mother's Day, Monday, and I had a doctor's appointment that day, and my mom and I decided to drive to a town that we are seldom near called Massapequa Park. Shout out Crispy. You know where we went. We went to the burger joint. Because I hadn't been, I grew up in West Babylon, and we used to, drive down Sunrise Highway and just go to the burger place. It's the best. And we just decided to take a little joyride and pick up some lunch, right? So as we're driving home from there, we would, generally speaking, drive on Sunrise Highway, which would take us then to 27 would go to Nichols, right? So we were somewhere, along there, between between like 3:30, 4 o'clock. So it was getting a little bumper to bumper at that point. And we were near a town called Holbrook. We were near a intersecting, we were near an avenue called Broadway, and we were on the service road because our exit was going to be coming up close, and it was bumper to bumper, and it's kind of a little bit easier on the service road. And so all of a sudden, my mom didn't see it. I saw amidst the setting sun a flash of white in the brush in the middle of the highway and service road. So there's this, usually there's a lot of growth, greenery and little twigs and things that kind of, and plants, fauna that grow in between, there are these patches of land that are in between the service road and the main highway. So this is a very big highway. We have a lot of really big ones here, like the Long Island Expressway. So I saw her. We were driving east, and so the brush was to our left. Okay, and then the houses and everything else, like, the suburbs were on our right. And I see this little cat. I see a flash of white. And it was because of where the sun was hitting that I was able to see this. And I said, "Oh my God, it's a cat. Oh my God." And I said to my mom, I was like, "We have to turn around." And my mom's like, "We're not turning around." And I just started getting I didn't freak out. I just turned my head away, and I was going to have myself a little silent cry. And she said, she didn't even say anything to me. She just started to turn around. She said she saw my face and she knew she had to turn around. Sure enough, we turned back around, and that little thing was still there. I got out of the car, and I thought to myself, okay, because we pulled over, and I got out of the car, and I was like, okay, I have some like really cold leftover French fries from the burger place, so maybe I'll just bring those in case, to entice her, because I wanted to get her help. And I didn't, she was reacting to me, like she was meowing back at me, and I was talking to her, and she wasn't moving away from me. She wasn't running away. It was like her meows were like, "I need help." And I threw some fries. She started to eat them. I then made my move, and I grabbed her. But she was the vets eventually, we took her to a vet to check for a microchip, to see if she belonged to anybody. The vet said then that she was about 6 months old. And so she was tiny. So I grabbed her by like like how a mommy would grab a kitten, by the back of the neck, the flesh there, like the skin. And I got her up in my arms, but she definitely, still to this day, she does not love to be held. So I can understand why she felt out of control. I didn't even really remember how to hold a cat, because it's been that long since I've had a pet, since 2005 to be exact. So I grabbed her, and then she scratched the hell out of my arm, and then she jumped down and she went back to the same exact spot. I'm out of breath at this point. I'm like, it's taken so much out of me to do all this. I wasn't doing well physically at the time either, but my mom gets out and she tries, okay? And my mom almost has her too. And then she does the same thing. Pippi gets away, and she runs back into the brush and to the same spot. She's not even running away from us. And I get out, and I said, "I'm doing this." And I get all my might together, and I'm like determined, I'm like, this cat cannot stay here. I will have nightmares. She was walking into oncoming traffic. She was walking west. And I was like, she could have made it into the road, and then somebody could have hit her. I mean, how's she going to cross the street? She probably was very disoriented. I don't know her story at all. So I grabbed her, picked her up, got her in my arms, and I held her as tight as I could, and I didn't care if she scratched the shit out of me. And I got in the car. I said, "She's so clean." I said, "She smells like somebody's house a little bit." I was like, this is a cat that I don't think she's been out very long. I don't think she's been on the street very long. So we called a couple of places. We just went on Google and looked up a bunch of places, and we started making calls while we were stationary. We still pulled over on the side of the road, and we got, go here. They told us, call this place. I mean, people were just kind of giving us a no without giving us a no. They were giving us other options, but everybody was saying no, basically. So we decided to go to the nearest vet, and they were kind enough to check for that microchip and tell us how old she was and take a picture so that they could put it up just in case she belonged to somebody. And one of the vets was like, "You want her, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." But I didn't think of that at the time. I was just thinking about her safety. I was thinking about her well-being. I did look online a lot for anybody that was looking for a lost cat in those areas, in those towns that were over there. And I didn't see anything. And even now, I'll go on and I'll look. But anyway, I tried. My mother, okay, we leave. My mom goes into Target, and just because it was the closest thing to us, and she gets some basic things there, some cat food, a temporary disposable litter box, some litter. We got kind of like what we needed for her, and then my mom actually went out again the next day, but she went to Petco to get a bunch of stuff. And I said, "Look, this is what we can do." Before we went to Target, I was like, "We'll keep her for the night. We'll keep calling tomorrow," because at this point we're kind of exhausted. We want to go home. All right. And we'd been out a while. And so it's 6:00 by this point, 6, 7 o'clock, something like that. And we finally, get the stuff. We get home, and my dad is pulling in my dad's pulling in. This is when my dad still had a car, and a job. And he was pulling into the driveway, and I'm holding a cat, and I just shrugged my shoulders at him. And so, she slept with me that night. I pulled a significant amount of muscle in my arm, so I had to take muscle relaxers. Luckily, I had some because I do get spasms, so I will take a muscle relaxer when I need it. But I certainly don't take them all the time, but I had to wake up like clockwork. I was waking up in pain. I had to keep taking them. So anyway, it was worth it. We all had scratches. Me and my mom had scratches. We took her home, right? We put her in the kitchen. They told us put her in the bathroom. So we were setting everything up in the bathroom, and then I just got on the floor with her. She's in the kitchen on the floor, and I got on the floor with her, and she just starts headbutting my face, but like the gentlest little headbutts. And it was her way of saying thank you. She was just the sweetest thing since day one. And we put some food on the plate. We put water in a bowl. We set her up. And she ate. And she ate good. We gave her some nice wet food. Some nice pate. And yeah, she was just so, I could sense how grateful she was. I know that's what that was. It was so apparent to me energetically, the gratitude. Thank you. And so she stayed with me in my room that night, and she was all huddled and nuzzled against against my belly like the whole night. And every time I woke up, like she was there, and I took my medicine and I went back to sleep. But the next day my mom started calling places, calling, and everybody was denying. Everybody said they don't have enough room. Everybody's saying, this, that, and the third. So I walk past the room, and I'm just tending to the cat at this point and to myself. I walked past her room and I was like, any luck? And she goes, well, I guess the universe answered you. You've got a cat. And I was like, what? And she's like, nobody can take her. Like, what are we going to do? We took her. This is the end result. This is what's going to happen. And I was crying my eyes out. I could not believe. And I remember having talks that week with my parents, and I said, I know that, we were never really in a good place to have a pet, but I wanted to remind them of something. And I said, you saved a life. You saved a life. Do you know how blessed you are for that? You will continue to be blessed for that. It is a very beautiful opportunity that was given to us, and we did very well, I think, So we saved her life, but she saved mine, And people say that, but I want you to know, like, I wasn't good at the time. And just taking care of that little thing was the spark that I needed to get myself out of the hole that I'd been in other aspects of my life, and just overall how I was feeling. So yeah, that's the story of Pip and how she came to be with us. We didn't go to a shelter and pick her. She we kind of, it was a really magical thing that occurred, that we picked each other. She needed a mommy and I needed a baby. So I love her, and I'll do anything for her, and I have sacrificed for her, and I will continue to do so, because her needs come before my own, and they always have. And so, it's not like I'm sacrificing everything, like I'm not that bad off, especially now that I have this ability to care for her now more financially. It's opening up ways for me to be an even better guardian to her. So, and that's with your help as well. You've all contributed to that. I want you to know, like, you're all you're all her aunts and uncles. Okay? You are, because you're helping her to thrive and live. And you're giving me joy as well. So I know a lot of you wanted to know that story, that little miraculous story about how, when you start to be happy with what is around you, and you see the value and in it, and start to interact with that, and you're so happy with, like, whatever is near you, and you're like, this is it. Like, I find happiness where I am. Man, does the universe respond with giving you more happiness? It just flows in towards you. And that's And that's what happened for me. I started to love all the videos that people put out for me to see. Their own pets, that they let me in on that to enjoy them. And they became like these, little bursts of energy, these videos. And then I started to just hang out with the squirrels outside and throw nuts out for them and look up which nuts are best for them and get myself a little bag and then throw them out and watch them from the window. So just, and then, the universe wants to give you everything you desire. They want to give you what you're vibrating at. That's how it is in this type of consciousness. It's mirror consciousness. So, they answer you. The universe answers you at your vibrational frequency. And so if you're happy, it's going to give you more happiness. It gets more specific than that too, because your focus and what makes you happy is more specific, and the universe will be more specific. So know that you're a co-creator with the universe. You are. You are magic. You are not exempt from, this experience that I've had. All of you are just like me. All of you can do it. All of you probably have done it. And I would love to hear those stories. So if you have any manifestation stories, if you want to tell me about your pets, please do, because I thrive. I love it. I live for the pet stories. I live for any of your stories. I love learning about you. And especially when you're not even asked by me, you share with me willingly and you get vulnerable. How beautiful is that? You get vulnerable. That's a strength. So thank you guys for all of the past comments, and thank you for leaving one here if you choose to do so. I love you so much, and I am sending you all of my love now and always.